All right, Warriors of National Guard recruiting. This is Command Sergeant Major Retired Dave Eustace with military recruiting experts. And I have the great pleasure to have Staff Sergeant Connery from Missouri, Chief 54 winner. I should say Staff Sergeant P, because I feel like I've known you for a little bit, so it's about time for you to get promoted.
Friday's the day.
Awesome. I didn't even know that, but
yeah.
Good deal. So I know you because you've been at some of my events, and I kind of follow you on Instagram and the Facebook recruiting forum. But just for the benefit of folks out there, if you could just introduce yourself, give us your guard story and your guard recruiting story, and don't leave out that gold jacket in the background.
Yeah. So I'm Staff Sergeant Connery. I'm from the Missouri Army National Guard. I came into recruiting originally as the National Guard Prior Service Liaison, which is where a lot of people know me from. Everybody was sending their SF 180s to me when I was at the Record Center. And that kind of got me in the door. And after doing that for a little over a year, I decided I wanted to kind of get into production and try it out myself. So started with the Missouri Recruiting Retention Battalion in 2019 and been pretty successful with recruiting since then. It's been a really good ride for me. So I was last year's rookie and Chiefs 54 winner all in one, which is why I have the jacket behind me. And the patches on both sides symbolizes one side is rookie of the year, then the other side is Chiefs 54. And then I had the opportunity to convert 79 Tango this year and go to the 79 Tango senior leadership course. So I got to learn a whole lot more about the organizational aspect of recruiting and how everything works within it. And like I said earlier, recruiting's been great to me. I'm being promoted to Sergeant First Class Friday. I have many years left to give to the organization. I look forward to doing it.
But that part there, that's kind of unique, is really looking forward to the serving part. And as I mentioned to you earlier before we started to record this, is I reached out to you not because you're a Chiefs 54 winner, although that is something of value to the organization. The thing that really sticks out, and when I've been around you and what I see you put out on social media, is that attitude you have about recruiting. So I'd be interested in you sharing some of your thoughts on how you think about recruiting and what is your attitude about the current environment.
Yeah, recruiting's a grind. I mean, that's the best way I could say it. It is a grind. New recruiters, when they ask me like, what's the secret and how do I do this and everything, I tell them they got to be ready for two things. They got to be ready for the highs and lows, because when you're riding high, it's awesome. And people are calling you and texting you and you have leads coming from nowhere and your name's out there. Then when it's low, it's awful, and it's like, you could go from zero to hero real quick, and you could go from hero to zero even faster. And so you have to be ready to weather that out. Bad months happen. I had a donut during my Chiefs 54 year. It happens. I've had a donut this year, and I'm still on track to make mission in 10 months of our 12-month year. And so those are going to happen. You just have to weather those. And then the second thing I always say is learn how to handle rejection. Rejection happens all the time in this job, especially if you're an active prospector like I am. I hit cold calls, I hit social media, I do area canvassing. I am a traditional production recruiter. And so I hear no all the time. And what I have to remember is they're not saying no to me, Nick Connery. They're just saying no because they don't know the opportunity that I have to offer them and they don't want to hear it. And that's not personal. It's not a knock on me. It's just where they're at right now. And so I take that no, I move on, and I just keep on prospecting until I can get those yeses. That's my attitude towards recruiting. I was recruiting for a year in a storefront when COVID went down. And so I got to ride the non-COVID years a little bit, and it was great. storefront recruiting was awesome. And then March 2020 hit and storefronts had to close. No appointments. Nobody could be coming in. MEPS was open, MEPS was closed, MEPS was open, MEPS was closed. And it became a real struggle. And what I had to do is figure out, because I recruit in a suburban market. So you have St. Louis, and then you have all the suburbs around St. Louis. And I'm in one of those suburbs. And so since they leaned very heavily into the COVID restrictions and the protocols, because we have a population dense area, I had to figure out how I can make a suburban market that's largely high school market work when the schools were completely closed and virtual. And I put on my thinking cap and I went out into my area and I area canvassed everywhere I could. And I figured out where people were. I asked my recruits, like, hey, you guys are virtual learning. What are you doing right now? Where are you going? Like, where can I get in front of people? And at the time it was esports, everybody, these kids that were at home, they were on home playing with their video games. And so, I was jumping into the National Guard e-gaming community, and I was jumping into those Discord chats, and I was like, anybody here from Missouri? And I was dropping my name. And when schools did open up, they weren't letting any recruiters in or any visitors. It was very limited on how they were opening. So I kind of watched the traffic patterns after school. I was kind of creepy like that. And I parked like right across the street from the school, and all the cars that left the parking lot, it seemed like they emptied out into the local gas stations, right? Because after school, what do seniors do and juniors? They go and they get their Rockstar, they get their Monster energy drinks, they get their game fuel, their snacks. And if they have practice, they go back to school with their Gatorades and whatnot, and they go to practice. So I had a 15-minute window there where I could catch them leaving school, going to the local Quick Trip or Casey's or whatever you guys have back home. And I could pop open the back of the minivan with some RPI, because I had tons of RPI because I couldn't give anything out. And I could kind of have those conversations, and I was street prospecting that way. I also leaned really heavily into the social media aspect. I ditched Facebook. I mean, I still have one for recruiting, but I needed high schoolers. I didn't need prior service. I didn't need old people like commenting on Facebook job ads, because it wasn't doing it for me. So I started up an Instagram. I got really friendly with how to target my market on Instagram, my high schools, my high school clubs, my high school organizations. And every single person that followed me got a DM. And the DM was, hey, I'm Sergeant Connery from the Army National Guard. Thanks for the follow. And I threw like a flag emoji. And if they responded, that's a contact. And then I would start having a little conversation with them on Instagram about it. That got me through with referrals all the way to be the top recruiter in the state. And this year I have been very successful carrying on that success from last year. Currently, knock on wood, I'm still the top recruiter in Missouri. But we have some really talented individuals this year, and they're getting it too. And I think just having the attitude of believing in what you're selling, you are selling the best military branch, bar none. And that's coming from a guy that was active first, then came over to the Guard. It's the best military branch for 95% of people out there is the Army National Guard. And so you have to have the mindset that, like, if you're not getting in front of them, telling them about these great benefits and everything that we can offer them in our community and our peer networking, if you're not doing that, you're doing them a disservice. You are, it's almost criminal not to tell people about the Army National Guard and let them join another branch of service where so many people are unhappy and they're not getting what they want out of their service. And so, it's like, I have to do it. I have to get in front of them, and I have to at least pitch them, even if they're like, hey boss, I heard about you. You're nice, but I'm really going to join the Marines or whatever. I'm like, that's great. Good for you. The Marines, very proud organization. They do a lot for the country. But just, you need to hear this. You need to hear this before you sign that Marine contract. Just so that you have these options. Because if you were going to buy a car, you would never buy a car from the first dealership you went to, ever. So why are you going to buy the first contract that's offered? And that's how I go about it, man. And I enjoy it. I want to prospect and recruit for as long as the organization will let me, before I have to move on to, like a broadening assignment or something like that.
Well, there's a lot to unpack there. The first thing I'd like to highlight for the folks that listen to this is the area canvassing piece. As you know, I do the high performer seminars, and this past week I had 23 recruiters in Nashville. And for the first time in doing this for 5 years, we always go through the last enlistments. Those recruiters got as many enlistments from area canvassing as they did from referrals. Referrals is normally number one going away. So these recruiters kind of figure out the same thing that you figured out is I got to hustle. I got to get out there and do a lot of what I can do. And social media was also picked up this time, which would tell me this group of individuals, the high performing recruiters, that social media is the end. I'm doing the other stuff and I do social media. I'm not wholly focused on social media.
Yeah.
And the last thing that I just like to highlight that you mentioned is I'm very passionate about this point that you're making, and I can see that you're passionate about it too. We have a world-class organization, and I hear far too many recruiters and certainly far too many leaders talk about everything that the other companies are offering that is similar. And they're comfortable saying that. And I don't mind saying it's offensive to me. I would guess it's offensive to you, but you don't have to say that because no one is like us. Those benefits may be similar, but the organization, it's not even close to be part of this team. Just wear your uniform to serve your community and your state and your country, and to be with like-minded people that want to serve and to do things on a day-to-day basis that are going to make your community better. You cannot compare that to Walmart. You cannot compare it to Costco or Starbucks. Yeah. It's that part of it is offensive because this organization is so great. And finally, I firmly believe, like you do as well, 95% of young people, they're going to go to college, they want to serve, or they're going to get a job. Well, we got something for you in all those categories. And we can prove that you're going to be able to go to college. We can prove that you're going to get real skills. We can prove that you're going to be around people and build your network where you live and where you serve. So those things are all great things, but probably the overriding thing that you mentioned is your attitude. And I think your peers need to hear that is, hey, this is a great place to work and it's a great opportunity. So how does that translate, aside from what you mentioned already, into your daily approach? You mentioned there's ups and downs, but how do you look at today in recruiting in deference to those things that you mentioned?
Yeah, no, I hear you. And I'm kind of surprised you said, did you say that your high performers are saying that the referrals are going down?
No, the area canvassing is going up to meet the referrals. So that just tells me that we're doing more of it, which is encouraging.
Yeah, absolutely. Area canvassing, it is key. I like to say, like, I never have lunch alone, even though it costs a little bit more money. And I never go to the gym by myself. Those are two things that I do in my market. Even if it doesn't get me anything, I go work out in the evening when the gym is the most busy. So I'm not benefiting by going at the busy hour of the gym personally, but I'm benefiting recruiting wise because I go in my uniform. I have my gym bag that says National Guard. I switch out into civvies and I make sure to make a slow roll of it so that everybody sees me when I walk in uniform and sees me go in the men's locker room. And that one kid that's like, oh man, I've been actually needing to talk to that guy, can kind of run up to me and it works. So being in your area and not hiding out in your armory or your storefront's very important for that and kind of getting out there. But to kind of go what you're saying, you know, I think when times get tough, like they are now, with us at the tail end of the pandemic and having to rebuild a lot of our contacts, our COIs, our VIPs, our referral base, and then on top of which, we're getting the whole lot of accountability and a whole lot of oversight with Genesis and all that. It's made the process a lot longer, and a lot of us weren't used to that. We like quick processes, get them in, get them enlisted. And so what we now have to do, and what's really difficult for some of us, is we have to build really personal relationships with people to keep them enthused. You know, you can't do the quick sell anymore. You know, you can't do the quick, hey, you came to my office, let's fill out this paperwork, you're already sold, and let's get you to MEPS, because so many MEPS trips are becoming repeat trips. You go to MEPS with a simple pre-screen. Oh, guess what? That pre-screen wasn't simple. They've got a broken arm, and now the doctor who's supposed to have the med docs in front of them still wants med docs. And now you have to go back to MEPS. How do you keep that kid from bolting on you? That's the danger zone. I know I've talked about this in an MRE class, but once they've made the determination that they're going to go to MEPS, or they've already been to MEPS, if they didn't sign a contract, they're in the danger zone of getting scooped up by somebody else. So now what you have to do is you have to form those real personal relationships so that that kid's your ride or die, and he's not going anywhere. He's going to stick with you, whether this process takes 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 4 months, who knows how long. And they're going to stick with you, and they're going to sell you to their friends and all that good stuff. And so what we do is we have a weekly workout at the armory here. We open up our doors, and I hype up my soldiers all the time. Everything they do. They go to prom, I'm posting out there, look at my soldier at prom. They win an FBLA competition, I'm posting that out there. You know, they win a skills competition with their welding or whatever. Every little thing, I'm like their hype man. I'm pushing them out there all the time. It's good for referrals, and it's good building that personal one-on-one. And, you know, to be honest, my staff and faculty at my schools like it too. They like to see that a recruiter in their area isn't just hounding their counselors for a school list, you know. And I tag the schools like on Twitter and stuff like that when I hype up my soldiers, and a lot of times they'll retweet or they'll share what I put out there and say, you know, we're so proud of so and so serving their country and doing great in school. And so you just have to get away from the mentality of the past of this being a quick sell, because if you kind of come to it with a quick sell mentality, you're going to lose them because they don't feel committed. And if they're not committed, they're not going to go through this Genesis process if it takes more than one trip to MEPS. And you got to be completely invested in your community, in your schools, and in your soldiers so that you can influence them and keep them on board with this ride. And lastly, to kind of put a button on it, you know, it is tough, and a lot of organizations are kind of struggling right now. And Genesis, M-Roads, PIMers, whatever it was over the past year has caught us kind of scrambling, figuring out how to get this done. Operations is kind of scrambling. MEPS is scrambling. And communication kind of has been iffy on everything. And a lot of recruiters are kind of feeling burnt out. And if they're burnt out, they can't sell the organization. And so you got to just bring it all the way back to SQI4 and all the way back to what's your values as a recruiter? Is your value as a recruiter to the RRB, or is your value as a recruiter to the recruit? And if your value and what you're doing this job for is to benefit young men and women who could use our job skills training, who could use our vocational benefits, our education benefits, our social networking, or just a little extra money, get them out of the house after high school and onto something bigger and better. If you believe that is what you're doing this job for, all this other stuff is just static. And it's just small obstacles that you're just going to have to plow through. But if you believe that you're only doing this job so that you can get a good referral from the RRB to your next AGR assignment, you're probably not going to be successful in this environment right now because you're not committed. And that's just my 2 cents on it, Dave.
Well, I would agree with you on pretty much all of it. It is, what's kind of interesting is, and you know where I come from. I come from high volume, shorten the contact to contract time. That's what we're about. And so this new program it's very difficult to get used to that part of it. But one advantage that comes out of it is these extended relationships and the network and the orbit of that applicant. We can get them to the start line before that recruit is to the finish line, that applicant. So they can jump on the process with their friend. And depending on how Genesis works is they could be enlisting together.
Absolutely.
It ends up being kind of a little bit different program. It's not too late to get on board and have this experience. And I would, those people that join together are going to be tighter, just like people that you go to basic training with and people that you deploy with. You have a tighter relationship as a bond for the rest of your life. And the overriding thing that you're talking about is get rid of the noise.
Yeah.
Get rid of the noise and put something into action, which is going to serve you in all areas of life, but in particular recruiting. What do you have control over right now today? Well, I could go talk to some people. I can make a post on social media. I can connect with a VIP. I don't have any control over how Genesis is going to be executed. I don't. And I'm pretty sure they haven't called you for what your opinion on it is. Right? If they did, if they took your opinion, just like if they took mine, we wouldn't be on this Genesis program. So we just have to accept the things that we can't control.
It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. And then kind of what you said earlier about the other branches and these $50,000 bonuses, $20,000 quick ship bonuses and all that good stuff. Remember, I mean, those are great deals, right? That's a great deal. $50,000. What a great deal for that. But at the end of the day, and what you have to convince a young man or woman is that you're still giving more than you're getting at the end of the day. They're going to throw you 50 grand. Awesome. On a 6-year contract, 4-year contract, active duty, 24/7, 365. You're still giving more. Mm-hmm. They have to set it up with a really nice bow because you have to give so much. And so what I tell, anybody coming to me to talk, which very rarely does somebody mention the bonuses, very rarely. When an applicant that I'm talking to is like, hey, I saw that there's a $50,000 bonus. Oh, okay. Well, here's what I'm offering. I'm offering a $20,000 bonus if you qualify for these 5 jobs. But what I'm also offering you is a life outside of the military in which you can still have. You take that bonus, and trust me, there's strings attached with that bonus, and we can get into that. But you take that bonus, and you have no life outside the military for the next 4 to 6 years. And that's why they can offer you a big bonus, because they got to dress up what they're selling. I mean, it's how it is. It's like you mentioned Walmart and Costco. People are willing to pay more to go to their local grocer because it's better service and a better environment. Walmart and Costco is cool, but you got people running into your carts. It stinks. Your cart has like 3 wheels that move and 1 that doesn't. Everything's kind of haphazardly sorted. Half the times are out of what you're looking for. It's, you kind of got like, you sit in a Walmart parking lot and you kind of like psych yourself up to go in there. If you have a good experience and you're offering a good product and you're offering really, really, really great customer service, you don't need a flashy deal. You just don't. And what I hear 9 times out of 10 of recruits that come into our office that's been to another recruiter's office is they love the vibe. They just love the vibe. We're here joshing with each other. We're talking honestly. We're peeling back the veil of recruiting. We've got the SRIP on deck. We've got, the enlistment guidance and whatnot on deck for them to read through. No gimmicks, full transparency. We talk to them like individuals. We don't talk to them like a number. We don't push them the MEPs before they even know what they're buying onto. That customer service will outsell a flashy deal any day of the week. 100% believe in that.
Well, I've always believed that people join whatever branch they join because of the recruiter. It is the connection they make with the recruiter. For some, it's they think you're cool. For others, they think you're honest. Some they think you're trustworthy. They believe that you're giving them straight information. I've always believed that. But I don't remember what the stat is, but it's high 80s, low 90% of people that don't live more than 50 miles away from where they grew up. You know, over the last couple of years, that may have changed, but generally speaking, 80% of people are not going to live as an adult more than 50 miles away from where they grew up. If we understand that, it is, hey, we got this great deal for right here at home, which most people are drawn. They're drawn to stay at home. So that's a real advantage. Couple other things I wanted to throw by you just to get your opinion. I kind of know what it is, but as I travel around, the difference between recruiters that are being successful and those that are really struggling does not seem to be a technical thing. But as an organization, maybe in your state, but I know nationally, people are grasping for what is it that these successful recruiters are doing. But it always comes back to doing basic recruiting. Is that what you see from yourself and your peers that are being successful?
Yeah. I mean, aside from the basic of, the expedited timeline, that's the only basic that's really kind of changed. The rest of the basics are the same. The simple math is the more appointments you're conducting, the more enlistments you're getting. And that's all it is. And to get those appointments, you have to do the same things you always had to do. You have to prospect. You have to prospect effectively. Targeting your prospect list is the best way to do that. To get away from just mindlessly, I hear old heads kind of tell the stories of like breaking open a phone book. I would never do that. That's time consuming and I ain't got time for that. But what I will do is I will take my RZ list and I will download it to an Excel and I will filter out my seniors. And that's going to be my list I contact off of, or my juniors, or, whatever, or I'll target a zip code. And a targeted prospecting list will get you more appointments. Contacting during the golden hours, the certain populations will get you more appointments, and the more appointments conducted, the more enlistments you're going to have. And so the basics are still sound. 100% true.
On your list, do you segment that population further by taking, say, those seniors and then comparing who's in clubs, groups, and activities and sports and say, okay, these are my priority to contact, and then I'll get to these other ones?
Yeah. So, your joiners, kind of what you're talking about. And so, if I recognize names and stuff, sure. But what I do with social media prospecting is different than what I do with telephone prospecting, because I don't want to spend too much time researching my telephone list. If I got a list and I know these are all seniors, I'm good with that. And I'm just going to roll in with these seniors because I want to get 30 phone calls made or, 30 texts out. And I don't do mass texts. I don't believe in that. I do individual text to individual people. But if I've already sent cold text out there or hot text out there, then the next time we're doing is, the cold call. And so if I see in my contact notes, oh, I've already texted this guy off this list, then it's time to start calling. And if I'm going to call, I'm going to call during the golden hours. But my joiners, I can target my joiners through social media prospecting. And so that's when you get onto your high school DECA, FBLA, FFA, football, lacrosse. When you get on those pages and you see who's actively liking, sharing, and whatnot on those pages, and you slide into those DMs and you're like, hey, how's it going? You know, great job killing it at wrestling this weekend. Or I see that you've announced that you're committing to so-and-so college. Have you ever looked into their ROTC program? And you kind of dig into their interests and start that conversation. And hey, I'm not going to say I bat 1,000, but I do a whole lot better than not, reaching out to those people for sure.
Well, it kind of highlights this thing that we got out there that to me is the seeds of complacency. Is I had a recruiter recently tell me, it's like, I only get about a 1% return on phone calling. And I was like, that's pretty good. The only thing you got to do is increase the number of calls. And so what you're driving at is, I think, something that everybody kind of needs to hear is all the things that we need to do. You don't necessarily love doing those things.
Yeah.
But you got to do them. What's your favorite part? What's your favorite part of the job?
My favorite part of the job is the enlistment.
Yeah.
My favorite part of the job is going to MEPS and picking up a kid, taking their picture, posting it out there, and just seeing it blow up, and seeing them hype themselves up, and that's my MEPS day is my favorite day of the job. 100%. And so, sorry, I just got a phone call here. Okay, so, to get there, I have to prospect. Telephone prospecting sucks. There's no way around it. It's instant rejection. A text, you don't know if you're going to hear anything, so you don't know if you've been rejected or not. A call, instant rejection. And you get a few of those rejected calls, and you start feeling like this is worthless. If, what'd you say, 1%? If 1%, 1 out of 100 calls results in an appointment, this is not a good tool for prospecting. But that's why I'm saying get away from block lists, get away from your station commander coming in and saying, I want you to call every number on this list, and get towards more a targeted list. And you got to put a little bit of work to create those targeted lists. But if your station commander says, hey, I want you to get 100 contacts this week, 100 this week, right now, let's go. Do it, but do it from a targeted list and do it during golden hours, and you will get more than 1% ROI on that. And if you call 100 people and you get 5 appointments, and so you bump from 1% to 5%, that's 5 appointments in a week. Not a bad week, not terrible.
Yeah, and it's highly likely if you get that up to 5 with all the combinations of the stuff we don't love doing, that you've set the table for an enlistment. Now, you might not get that enlistment this week, but you're gonna get, it's gonna result in getting an enlistment. And there's no state that if you set that table to get an enlistment per week and 3 or 4 of them fell out at the end of the month, that you won't be in a terrific spot. And that is it's like anything worth doing, though, is you got to do stuff that you ain't gonna love to do. So I like that, like your attitude about that. I just got to do it. Of course, I love enlistment day fast. If we got enlistment day every day, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's that would be our utopia. So, and
you're only going to get those 1 or 2 times a month, right? You're only going to get that enlistment day once or twice a month. The rest of the days is the grind, but that grind is what the Army National Guard pays us and trains us and equips us to do. And if we're not doing it, what are we doing then? Are we selling the guard? Or are we just presenting the guard? Because there's a big difference.
Yeah, if you're in that population and you're listening, and we talk about the grind, you mentioned the grind a couple times, is it's like, hey, just start start listening to David Goggins. It's like, it's real similar. You gotta start to embrace the grind. We know what will happen from it, you know? And it sounds to me like that is part of you and your office's approach. Is like, we're gonna grind because we know what will happen.
Yeah. Hey, I got burnt out. I'm not above it. At the end of last RY and starting, after getting 31 enlistments last year and being right back to zero, you're like, oh my gosh. And COVID and Emerald and Genesis. And I was starting to lose my value system, and I was starting to get no shows, and I was starting to get non-conducted appointments, and I didn't know what was going on. Like, I was like, did I lose my mojo? And to reset my mindset for this grind, I started really digging into sales books, audiobooks. I have an Audible account. I don't read. I wish I read more, but it is what it is. So I started listening to those like hyper motivating high performer sales books, I listened to the Fanatical Prospecting and Fanatical Military Recruiting. I listened to Grant Cardone and books by him. I'm on the third door right now, and listening to these books and getting my mindset out of the no, because all I was hearing was no's and rejection and emeralds and Genesis and all this other stuff. Like, no. Getting my mindset back to the fact that I still had to do my job and be a performer by any means necessary. I think it really, really helped set me up this year.
Yeah, I just like the attitude. I like the approach. We're running short on time here, but I wanted to get you an opportunity to really share some words of wisdom for your peer group, because we have 121 processing days remaining. So we're past halfway.
Yeah.
And we got a lot of states, a lot of teams, a lot of individuals that got some catch up to do. So what would you say to them? How can they finish strong and make it happen this year?
So third and fourth quarter is starting. Schools are ending. If your market share looks like mine, you're seeing a DoD drop across the board, which means that there's a lot of people in your market that have not committed to anybody yet. And what I would do with that information is recenter yourself, get back to being motivated, listen to one of these cheesy salespeople hype you up on your way into work every day with like an audiobook or something like that. Get back to the basics of prospecting and what made you great in previous years, because there's a lot of really great recruiters working really hard and not getting an ROI right now. Go back through those lists. A no in August is not a no in May. And take advantage of the fact that there's going to be a ton of people graduating high school with no plan, graduating college with no plan. We still have super seniors. So you can get these juniors and enlist them as seniors in April and May without them going to basic training this summer, if that was their objection. Just reach back out, get back to the basics, make them either give you a no or a yes before you terminate them at an RZ. And I think that if you recenter yourself and you bring back your value system, you will be successful.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for coming on. Like I said, I think highly of you, and I just really like your attitude about recruiting. And it's no wonder that you're doing well, because the attitude that you take. And I think attitude is choice. So you've chosen to have a positive attitude, and I bet you the people around you, even if they're not feeling like having a good attitude, they're going to have a better attitude because they're working with you. And that's positive for the Guard. So again, I thank you for your time. Keep on doing what you're doing. I don't know how they do it there, if you get another patch for winning it this year, but
I don't know.
Stay after it.
Yeah.
So, all right. Good to talk to you again. I hope to see you at one of my events.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Have a good one. Get after it today.
All right. Thanks.